Okay, our demonstrators tonight, we're going to have 3 of them again, the same as last week, but it's going to be in finishing, like I just covered. But we're going to do one of them at a time, and they're going to do it right here in front of all of them. So you can keep your seat. The first one tonight is going to be Bob Robinson. He's going to be using a lathe here, and he's going to be covering finishes and food safety. And with that, let's give Bob a big hand. Where's the good?
I'm hiding behind you. Okay. Before I start, I want to mention we're doing a gingerbread festival again this year. And this is where the kids turn pens like we did at Sibyllesville. It's Friday, November 30th, and Saturday, December 1st. Friday is from 1 to 7, and Saturday's 9 to 5. So I'll be trying to get a hold of everybody to fill out some 2-hour slots or 4-hour slots or all-day slots. We're going to use 2 lathes there because they've moved the venue to downtown. There's a Christmas festival going on that day in Gettysburg. But we do need volunteers. Last year we turned, I think, 55 pens. This year we'll probably do the same. So we need some people to help the kids turn, and we need some people to help put the pens together when they're turned. And that frame that Rod showed you with all the names, the kids really do get a delight out of this. They really do. And it's fun to watch them. So I'd appreciate anybody who can help. It'd be first 2 years I did it by myself, and it was a long 2 days.
I'm going to move this up a little
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. Yep. Okay.
Wherever you like it.
So tonight, is this on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me back there? Okay. We're talking about finishing different products with different products, and use different products for different production meat. If you're going to use something that people are going to put food in, it's got to be food safe. There has been an argument for years, and even among the professionals, when you spray lacquer after it cures, it's food safe. If you use varnish, which you can eat supposedly, it's food safe. The nut oils and that are supposedly food safe. They are food safe. I'm doing a series of these for a lady, and I had someone in the shop finishing up 2 projects, and he was using Velspar to finish them because they were vase, and he wanted to waterproof them. And I slapped the first coat of Velspar on this wine glass, which is usable for wine. And then I realized it may not be food safe. So I called Minwax, and I said, I just screwed up pretty badly. If I cover that with the food safe, would be food safe. And he said, I'm going to be covering my butt, but I would tell you without doubt, Minwax does not make any food safe products. We don't make any products that can be used by children for toys. We never have, we never will. Okay. So I turned around and I put that back in the chuck with some rubber on here, and I sanded the whole thing down again, which took a lot longer than the first time. Because that stuff penetrates pretty daggone well. So actually it was this one, and you can see the difference in thickness. So, if you put a light bulb in there, you can see through this thing. All right. So it's up to you what you use, but he is telling the guy from Minwax, and he may be protecting his butt, but he said lacquers, he believes, and he was a chemist that I was talking to, are not what he'd use for any food safe product, especially for alcohol or beer. He guarantees it won't work. It's not food safe. So with that little get together, we'll start here. How do I start to finish, put the finish on? Well, the most important finish that I'm going to put on this is this variety of sandpaper down there. Okay? And I try to start with 100 grit, but this is 80, 100, 120, 150, 180, 240, 400, 600, 800, 1200, 1500. And I religiously go through every one of those every time. I may start with 120 if I get a good smooth finish on a piece of wood. You know, if I'm scraping good and you know, shear cutting and it comes out really smooth, I may start with 120. Our woodworking group in Annapolis had a gentleman who was with the National Forest Service, and he was a woodworker, and he brought in a whole slide series of showing 80 grit paper and skipping to 200 or 240. And it looked like cornrow in there when you put it under a microscope, because that 80 is going to cut a groove in there very deep. You will sand forever to go from 80 to 240 to get that groove out. And most times it won't come out. So you really need to not skip any grit. Okay? You could probably skip the 220 to 240 and go to 400. That wouldn't be a problem. But any more than that, I really don't think you want to do it. So you end up with a really smooth finish. And that's the best way to start and get a good product. If you're selling your stuff, you will realize that most people pick it up, and if it's smooth, it satisfies some of their real curiosity. The second thing they always look at is the bottom. Don't ask me why, because they're going to be looking at the top most of their life. But they will look at the bottom, and you want a good finish in there. Okay. So now let's do the food safe ones first. There's a product put out by General. It's a salad bowl finish. These are finished with that. Bob Daniel and I ventured one time. He was making beer mugs, and we did 1 coat, 2 coats, and 3 coats, which is what they recommend. We poured some beer in there, let it sit for a couple days. It didn't seem to affect it at all, but it just didn't seem right. I don't know why. So we've optimized it at 7 coats, and you get a good solid finish, and it's hard. But these are really thin coats. There's nothing, you know, I mean, there's no drips in there. It's really thin. So that's what I use if I'm going to want a real heavy shine, and I, you know, am using it for beer or alcohol. All right. If I'm going to do a bowl, which is I'm going to do this demo here, and it's food safe, I use a product called Preserve, and this is exotic nut oil. Okay. And I put it on with a brush, and that brush has been in my cabinet for about 3 years. It never dries out. It stays nice and supple. And I just paint this on without spinning it. And let it soak in for 15 minutes. And then I put a second coat on. It's amazing what you think you coat. When you put the second coat on, you'll really see the difference. You miss some spots. Or the wood will absorb it at different rates. Your end grain is going to absorb it, you know, a lot heavier and thicker. When I get through this product, then I coat it with a beeswax and mineral oil, which you can purchase from Holland Bowl Company. I've had that, I guess it's a quart size, I'm not sure. But I've had that for at least 5 years. So it goes a long ways, and it's like $30, I think, for that. But it's a nice product. It gives a nice, you know, feel to the wood. If I'm going to do what you're going to do a demonstration for this, if it's going to be pens or something I'm not concerned about being food safe, I will use this Super Gloss by PSI. Now, we use this for pens, and Jim came up with a formula, the same thing, that he mixes himself. Jim, you want to tell him what it is?
It's top secret stuff.
I know it is, but we'll have to kill all of you if we tell you. But
Captain Eddie's.
Captain Eddie, no.
Woodland seed oil, shellac.
Alcohol,
And
almond
alcohol.
oil, and shellac.
Right.
And you can
It's
substitute
not
woodland seed
evenly
oil
mixed
for the
either.
walnut oil.
You have to use the correct proportions.
Right.
If somebody wants it, I'll be glad to give it.
Yeah, it really works as well as this $28 can.
I probably have $2 in a can.
Right. So, and it does work. Another product that I've been using for quite a while, I think this is about the 20th jug this year, is a walnut finishing oil from Doctor's Wood Shop. And I know it's my imagination, but I swear I think when I use this, the wood feels softer than when I use the exotic nut oil. I think it gives a smoother finish. Don't ask me why, but it does seem to do a good deal. All right, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to use a preserve and put it on here, if I can get it open. Okay, and I use a brush instead of the rag, and the reason I do that is to make sure that I get everything in the grooves. Okay, now I always finish the bottom of my bowl before I do the inside. If I crack a bowl or go through the bottom, I've wasted this finish time. But I find it's a lot easier to do it while I got it upside down, and I don't lose that many, thank God. But you put this on pretty heavy. I keep it out of the bottom because I don't want that to be in there when I'm burning it later. All right, and I just end up putting this on, and you can let gravity do some of the work for you. Just let it run down. You can see it's really a good shine.
Klingspor sells this stuff. It's kind of hard to find in the catalog.
Yes, it is hard to find.
Catalog, but it's in there.
And it is really, I really truly like it. It's a great product. The gentleman I'm turning this for wanted this for a candy dish for his wife for a present. He told me he wanted something that looked like Saturn because she's an astronomer. So I guess I came up with this ring idea, and if it doesn't look like Saturn to him, I'm sorry, but that's as close as I'm going to get to the planet. So, all right. So we'll let that sit there and absorb it. Like I say, I would put a second coat on it. Now, what do I do after I let it dry? Or let it soak in? I'll take paper cloth. I will never, ever use a rag if I'm going to spin a finish. Because if you want to break a finger real quick, is wrap your finger in here and put it on there and watch it catch on this screw here and wrap your hand right around that lathe. Believe me, as first couple years I turned, I had crooked fingers because I did it twice. So the third time I figured it ain't going to happen. All right, so tonight, for the ease of doing things, we'll take off some of this excess and I wear that shield when I'm doing finishing because the glasses I wear cost 300 and some bucks a pair, and this stuff gets on there, it does not come off if it dries. Okay, and these are plastic lenses, and you can't put anything acetone or anything on it to get them off unless you want to destroy the lens. So for the sense of argument tonight, we'll dry this up pretty good. Now, I brought this on my own faceplate and we couldn't use it, so we put this on his and we didn't get it centered, and I wasn't going to turn it to get it back in where it should be. Pardon?
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm thanking you for you saying we, because it was only me that put that on.
Okay. Now, I usually spin this very high because I want to be able to get my fingers to feel the warmth. And if you've ever attended any of the class of these professionals that finish, like I do in Florida in the winter, their theory is if you get the wood hot, you're going to get it to suck into the oil and all go into the wood finish. Supposedly opens the pores of the wood. Can I prove that? No. Can they prove it? I don't think so, but that's their theory anyway. But it dries it, so, you know, that's the main thing. All right. So once that's dry, then I take, it's really not dry, but it won't hurt anything, and put the wax on there. And I do put the wax on while it's spinning. And again, probably getting about every other inch. But it really does put a nice finish on things. Okay. And I usually put on 2 coats of wax. I let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes and come back and do that. And I think it's really a nice finish. It's certainly, when it gets the wax dries a little bit more, it's a nice soft finish. Okay. So that's my food safe product. Or I would use the walnut oil and the same beeswax and oil. That kind of is done with that. And if we wipe it off a little bit more, pass it around, it's a little sticky, but it's not going to hurt you. This is really a cut off of a piece I'm working on, but it's Purple Heart, and it will show you how it shines. So let's assume this is something that's not food safe. Do you have a pair of pliers? I can't get that off.
Did you get mad?
Yeah, and if I get mad, it still won't work. Fingers don't work anymore.
I didn't get it either. I'm going to have to get a pair of pliers.
All right. You'll see when this goes on, this really does have a nice hard lacquer finish.
What's the formula for that again?
Pardon?
What's the formula?
Jim's is alcohol, shellac, and oil.
Equal parts.
Well, it's usually a third, right?
Yeah,
That's not
equal
what I
parts.
use.
I use
You
equal
can
parts.
use different proportions, but that's,
I use equal parts.
Jim doesn't. I got the copy here.
And I have just fantastic luck with it.
Yeah,
For a friction polish.
yeah.
It's
No wonder we couldn't get it, Bob.
serious
It was
friction
tight.
polish. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't use, well, I generally use boiled linseed oil.
Okay. All right. This I always put on while it's spinning, and hopefully this will spin a little bit smoother. You can see this gives you a really gloss quickly. And what I do when I'm using this product is I will sand it with 1500 grit between each coat. And if I'm really trying to get a nice luster and a good finish, I'll sand it 3 times. And I have my air right at the bench, so I would blow it off in between, but if you turn this up, it'll really dry and get hard. And when your fingers get warm, you've reached it. I gotta figure out what to make this now. Now on top of that, I also use the wax. And again, I'm spinning it on. Nice and quiet lathe. Says nice and quiet lathe. Again, the wax is still going to be soft, so you're going to feel it when it's passed around. But it will. Yeah, gives you a pretty nice finish. All right. The only other thing that I use, obviously, is spray lacquer. All my Christmas tree ornaments, I use spray lacquer. It dries very fast. You can get 2 or 3 coats, 4 coats in it. What time between drying? 15 minutes sometimes with lacquer. So you can get a lot of coats pretty quickly. So if I'm doing a dozen tree ornaments, I hang them in the shop and just spray all 12 of them at a time. And it goes pretty quickly. I really don't use a lot of lacquer. I mean, even the Christmas tree ornaments, if it's a small birdhouse ones, I'll use this because it's on the lathe and I can do it right there and I don't have to hang them. So, any questions? All right, good. That's really it. The secret is right there in front. Is getting that sandpaper and getting a good finish on it. Yeah.
How to get the end grain? How did it heat up and get it going?
Well, the end grain, I find that if I'm doing it and I want to put a stain on it, we didn't talk about staining, but if you're going to stain something, if I'm going to go to 400 grit sandpaper, I will stop the end grain. I will take the end grain beyond whatever I'm doing the rest of it higher, and it doesn't absorb it as much because the finer you sand, the less you absorb. Okay? If you take a piece of wood and you sand it with 80 grit sandpaper and put stain on it, and right next to it sand the piece down to 1200, that 80 grit's going to be much darker because that 1500 grit sanding isn't going to be absorbed as much. Okay. End grain on these, if I'm doing a vase, which I do end grain vases, I really don't see any difference in any of the finish on what I've shown here. You can't tell the end grain from the non-end grain because you're not staining it. If you're staining it, you do. And that's the other thing. If you're going to stain any product, that's when the grooves in this sandpaper show up if you haven't taken the time to really... I think Larry made a good point when he did his demonstration on sanding, that it's just another tool in your arsenal of tools. And until he said that, I hated sanding. Now I just hate it a little less. But it's my least favorite thing to do. I will tell you that, but I patiently go through every one of these every time. Yes?
Do you ever use steel wool for any?
Absolutely, without doubt, never.
What happens?
I don't like the residue that's left on there. You get fine particles you can't see. But if you don't, or if you aren't really careful blowing it off or using a tack rag to get it off and really spend time, when you put the finish on, you can feel the ends of that. I find, especially when I was doing flat work and cabinet work, I will use the fiber cloth. I can't remember what the name of those are. Yeah, it's
non-woven, abrasive.
Yeah, it's white is real fine and brown is.
In the third demonstration, I'll be.
Okay, he's going to show you that. That is a much better product than the steel wool because you don't have any residue at all.
Steel wool also comes with oil. You can buy it
unoiled. Right.
Steel
Right.
wool, which I used to use for flat work.
Right. But that's, again, if you're going to use the oil, you got to remember what you're going to put on top of it. If you're going to oil it, that's fine. But if you're going to try and put a lacquer over top of that oil, you may be in trouble. Depending on what you used. All right, any other questions? That's about it. It's pretty simple, straightforward. All right.
Thanks, Bob.
Is,
Finishing is going to be more in man, it's going to be from how he finds milk tanks. So let's give Mario a big hand.
Hello, hello! It's me again, Maurice. Yes, it's so good to see you, mes amis. I'm going to talk to you about some strange little things that I do with wood and finishes. You remember I did that a long time ago. It just seemed like fun again. So have you ever done a piece of maple and all of a sudden it shows up with a dark black spot in it? No? Poplar does, yeah. Anything light like that. Well, I'm going to show you some ways of taking care of some of that stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some more things. Let me start my clock here.
Got time.
Anyways, I'm going to talk to you about several things. One is, when I first started out, had just retired and didn't have a whole lot of money. And I was sort of into this natural kind of thing. So one of the first finishes that I used on furniture, but I used on bowls, and that was this. That's roofing cement. How many of you know what asphaltium is? Mm-hmm. Anyways, have you ever seen all the old stuff that's refinished, where they strip stuff off and refinished it and made it into a golden oak? A lot of that stuff is finished with a solution of turpentine or mineral oil with roofing tar in it. And so I used that a lot for some of those kinds for finishing old sort of stuff. And also when I ran into some problems with bowls. So what you do is you take some of this, you put it in a bowl, and it's about an equal amount of asphalt here, and it makes asphaltium. Old furniture finishing thing. Now, if you have a bowl that is like a light color or something crappy shows up in it, you might want to do something. And so that's what I did with this. This was a piece of poplar, and so I had some of this stuff left over from finishing things, and I did that, and so it came out different. I'll talk about the green later, but the other thing was this green didn't look good to me, and I wanted sort of an older look, so I then took the asphaltium, because this really becomes a varnish. And so I used the asphaltium over that, and it cut the color down a little bit. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about color is because I've been turning stuff for about 13 years, some of you longer than that, but I'm really tired of making beautiful natural bowls. All of my relatives have at least 2. All of my friends have at least 3. They don't even want to know what I'm going to give them for Christmas this year, because then they have to find a place to do that. So that's just a fun thing. That's an old-fashioned thing. Years ago, people did that a lot. Now, we also wind up with turning things out of poplar, and I turn a lot out of poplar because it's handy and it's where it's where I try things out before I do something else. And so, I have to do some colors on that. Sometimes, yes, this is a nice bowl, but it really didn't have any good figure to it. It was sort of bland, and I was tired of making beautiful natural edged bowls, natural finished bowls, and so I came up with that. Now, Larry did a nice job of talking about stains, coloring, and he did that with, what do we call that?
What number of things, but I did acrylic paint.
Yeah. Well, this is acrylic paint also done in another way. What Larry did took a lot more talent than I do, so I did some things like this. Now, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute as acrylic, but one of the things you can begin to do stuff like this with is that if you wanted to make something in somebody's school colors, you could use the acrylic dab-on method I'm going to talk to you about, and make it a little bit different, or if somebody had a favorite color. I find that younger people aren't all necessarily excited about the natural finish stuff. They like lighter color stuff. They don't. I have a hard time with getting rid of walnut, and so these are just sort of interesting kinds of things. Now, getting down, and I'll show you about that in a minute. Now, one of the things that I hope you'll do for the Christmas party is some small bowls like this. This is a nice small bowl, but it's sort of bland. It's got no figure to it. It's got some walnut oil on the inside. But, you know, look what would happen if you spiffed it up on the outside with a, this is milk paint. And milk paint, I use the original milk paint that comes as a powder. What did you guys use? Did you use milk paint on those stools?
We didn't end up using any, but he had some here and showed us, but that might have been a General, one of General.
Okay, General also has this already mixed up. This stuff lasts forever. I mean, I've thrown paint out that I've had for years in cans, but this stuff lasts forever. In fact, what I do is when I get some of it, it comes in one of these nice foil packages, and I put it in with the whatever it is, and I put it in a thing like this, and I swear to you, this has been in this jar for 10 years. So, and it's still good. Milk paint is made out of casein, which is a milk product. It's part of the stuff that they take out of the milk. Now, in terms of doing up something like this, it's not tough. I'll show you. I'm glad you asked. How do you do that? Well, this is, as I said, this is a powder. Comes in a bowl like this. And what I do is I take one tablespoon and I put it in a little jar like this. And then it works best with hot water to mix up.
I've never heard anybody say hot water all the time I've ever heard of it.
Yep. It works best with hot water. Now, what we usually do is try to put an equal amount. Ouch. That water is still hot. I broke it. Well, we'll just have to do it the other way. I usually use one of these syringes. I get these at where they sell animal medicines and things like that. You can buy needles. You know the difference between an animal's needle and a human needle? Human needle, it comes out the end. The animal needle, it comes out the side, so you can buy these things. I also use that for squirting glue down deep in the side of things like chair legs that need to be redone. All right, so what we do, I've put a tablespoon in there, and I'm going to put almost a tablespoon in here. I'll put a little bit more in a minute. We'll go with a whole tablespoon. And then all we have to do is we take our paintbrush and we just mix it up. This will last in the refrigerator a couple of days. You can't just leave it lay out, but it'll last a couple of days. And what I'm doing here is this is a chocolate brown. And that's all there is to it. It's ready to go. And so, and you've got to have pieces like this laying around left over. Don't you? Yeah. I mean, make nice little balls and then do something with it. And so what we do is we do this. We just put it in. And I have all kinds of different colors. Brown's not my favorite, but I just happened to pick that one up today, apparently. And one of the interesting things about doing this is to do it down over the edge like this. It sort of keeps it off the edge most of the time. I got into using milk paint when I was making Windsor chairs. And so I have all kinds of colors of this. I gave up making Windsor chairs the same way, and I'm sort of tired of making bowls because I'd given one to everybody in my family and nobody wanted to pay the price that they were working for. Now, I'm not suggesting you do two tones like that, but I just wanted to show you how quick that works. And you don't have to buy those little cans at the store, and then wonder down the road, did I buy that in 04 or 05 and have it left over? But that's all it is. This is green milk paint, and then I did a cover over the top of that to tone it down. Questions? Milk paint. The key thing is,
Can you spray lacquer over that?
you can. What I do is I either put a little wax over it. You don't have to put anything over it. This stuff lasts forever. I mean, this is what, if you see old wheelbarrows, I've got a wheelbarrow that I made 15 years ago, redid. I found the wheel, and it's like that axe that is original. It's got the fourth handle and the second head. This stuff weathers. You can put this out in the rain, and it won't be hurt. Sometimes I put wax over the top of it. I don't put lacquer, but there's no reason you couldn't do that. But I think I should have done this in a pastel. I do have some other colors. But anyways, I think that makes a nice little bowl, and it's easy and quick to do. And then you get, there's a guy on YouTube that's talked about doing these. He calls this the impulse buy bowl, the $20 bowl. He said people come by and they look at the more expensive stuff, and he says more often than not they'll pick up a $20 bowl for nuts and peanuts like that. That's milk paint. You can order it, and this one is the old-fashioned milk paint. I have Salem red here. I have brown. Here's the pumpkin. This is pumpkin. It comes in a whole big variety of colors. But it's sort of an old-timey kind of, thing. This is what in colonial times much furniture was painted. Question?
Does that raise the grain?
No.
You put it on, do you raise the grain on the wood so you get most of the whiskers? That water generally causes the grain to raise?
I've not had it. Then what I do no. Because I've painted chairs, I've painted furniture with it. I've never had that problem. It's not always smooth. I could have used a little more water in this. After it dries, like tomorrow morning, I would take the fiber pads,
That was my question. Yeah,
and just take the nibs off. Take the nibs off from it. So, and it has sort of a natural feel. See, that's sort of a terracotta look, and that's. So the key thing that Bob learned was you use warm water. Anyways, well, it just makes it dissolve. It just makes it dissolve better. And here, if you make something, sometimes I just screwing around trying to make stuff. See what I can do. And one of the things I did when I was learning to make forms is that I would paint them black, so that I could look at what the form looked like. I'd make something like this out of poplar, and then to see how it really looked, I would paint it black and wouldn't be distracted by grain or anything like that. But I have a set of these that are three different sort of things, and they make sort of a striking set to put on the windowsill or whatever. Jim, is this what you're looking for, a chamfering tool? Well, okay then. Now, I should have put these on before, because it is hard to get off your hands. But for the next, is there a manual for how to put these things on?
Go into it and slip.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you know.
I was an EMT. I put a lot of these things on. Okay, now Larry talked about acrylics, and he did a fine job on that. And I tried that, and I'm still working on trying to do that. Anyways, 1-to-1, leaving this 1-to-1. Any questions?
Does it come in high gloss and matte finish, or is it just,
That's what you get.
that's what you get flat?
And you can sand it off, you use that and buff it down, but then, like you said, you can put lacquer on it, but what I used to use was Watco, clear Watco on it, and so I have chairs that look very nice. The other nice thing that you can do with this is to do 2 coats, and then sand one back. Like I have chairs that I've done that they're red, I paint them red, and then black, and then rub it back, and you can see the red coming through. You could do the same thing with other kind of colors, yellow, red, whatever kind of thing you want to do that. It's sort of an artsy thing. That's why I wear the hat. It's sort of an artsy kind of thing. Okay, now Larry did a nice job with acrylics, and I love acrylics. And so I began doing this kind of stuff. It doesn't take any talent. It's just fun. Do you really like rubbing things down for a long time? Things like that? Sure you do. But this is what I do for fun. And I just wanted to show you another way of using acrylics. And these are just the cheap acrylics that you get at Michael's. And you can, what are they a buck a piece? They also come in nice little tubes. I've been using a bunch of that lately too. But so if somebody wanted something in a particular color to go with a motif or whatever like that, you take this and it's best to use a quilted paper towel because it'll leave a little pattern on it. And so what we do is we just do this. And we just dab, and you can put another color. What I've done sometimes is just put silver under it. And now that dabbing will also leave a texture. Okay? That's one. One of the schools I went to, one of the reform schools I went to, the colors were orange and blue, and so we'll try to make this into an orange and blue. Oh, I forgot to tell you, one of the things was this, when they were talking about sanding, this had some marks in it that I just could not get out, and the paint takes care of covering that up. So here we go again. We're going to try another color. You can either let it dry and come back in 15 minutes, or just do this. And you can see we're getting a little pattern there. And yes, it looks like your grandchild did it. But I just have a lot of fun doing it. Get the idea? Not the best, but it's good. Now, this one I started out with silver, covered it with silver, and then I went to blue and purple and a light light blue, and so you can sort of see how things come through. This one had a yellow base, and then I used red and orange. And this one is silver, black, and 2 colors of green. I got 14 seconds. All right.
That is a silver base now. You like spray it all silver?
No, I don't spray it. I dab it.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you meant you start off with a silver bowl.
You could spray it if you want to, but I'm using acrylics.
Yeah,
And
but it's solid, not that. The whole thing is silver.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just take, maybe I took a brush and just did it. But anyways, any questions about this stuff? You'll never use it, but it might be fun. And particularly when you've got something like maple, where there's a black spot that comes up, and I've had some pieces that were great, but they have a tendency to show up with some colors in it.
Depends on what the mark looks like.
Huh?
Depends on what the mark looks like when it comes through, too.
Yeah. That's it. All right, no questions.
Will the milk paint go over other finishes? Like if you finish something you don't like it, then you add milk paint?
You need to sand it back and do an undercoat because it needs something to hold on to. But yeah, you can do that.
Now, the ones that you showed, let those dry between, do you normally let the one coat dry before you start?
I do, and it only takes 10 or 15 minutes.
Now, did you sand those or do anything at all after you dabbed that on?
Just no, just rub it with the, I just rub it with the fiber
Yeah, okay.
things. Simple.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Maury, they do make a seal coat for milk paint. You can
Yes,
put
sir.
over top of stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to sand it bare wood.
Yeah. It comes in a can or a bottle like this. It's white, and I have one, but it's sat there for 15 years. All right. That is all. Asphaltium.
I'll get this through. Maybe I won't get this through. There we go.
Last summer created a nighttime show. And he's going to be showing us how he uses the Beal buffing system.
Yep. Do you, how many people have the Beal buffing system? Do you have? I like to say that I use about 99% of doing my bowls, but I think it's 100% because I don't know what the 1% would be. I do everything with, or I finish everything with the Beal system. One thing I want to tell you is here's this 250-year-old bowl we got from Bart, his church, and the middle one, I didn't wax it with this yet. That's the one I'm going to be doing. What I like to do though is, of course, don't matter what you wax it or not. I mean, if you wax it, it's still, you've got to go ahead and take, and we were talking about this, all the sanding marks out. Everything's got to be taken out or it will not look good naturally. I like to sand it to, sometimes a 600, but you have to get them all out. I like to shear scrape and then start waxing maybe with 220. But But anyway, with that in mind, as I go ahead and to finish these bowls, or most of my bowls, is I use a tung oil. I put a thin coat on, then I wipe it off real good. Then between coats, and we were talking about the non-abrasive, what's it called? A non-woven abrasive pads. And they come in different, that's why I don't use steel wool. Because you can get little fine steel wool grits in your, in your wood. And that wouldn't be good at all. So here is, for example, this, I don't know if you guys have ever, who was asking about that? Was it Dennis, were you?
I was the steel wool guy.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But I recommend these. I highly recommend these. You can get them in different aughts. This is for example triple aught. This is 4/0.
There's brown, there's green,
yeah.
black.
There's different ones. So what I do is I put a coat on there. I might put 4 or 5 coats, and after I let it dry for 12 hours, I'll go ahead and I'll take my triple aught here, and I'll go ahead and really make sure the oil is really blended in, because I don't want to see any oil on there. That's why I put it on real thin and let it build up. Let's see, with that in mind then is then I go ahead and I'll use my triple E here. This is made out of linen. And then you have, let me get these on. Then you have your triple E compound. What I like to do is go ahead and knock your old stuff off there. Put it on, I guess everybody can see, I'm not sure. What I like to do is also put a trash can down there with a cover over it, so whenever you are polishing it and it slips out of your hand, at least it'll go in the trash can and help save some cursing, let's put it that way, but anyway. So you just go ahead and don't put it on there long, because what that'll do is really dull it if you hold it real quick, or if you hold it for a long time. It's very simple. This is a 1750 RPM motor. You can do it on the lathe. That's what you have, Nelson, isn't it? Yeah. And then you want to do the rim. Then what the next step is, very simple thing, is you go ahead and get with the white diamond. This is cotton wheel. Take the old stuff off, put the edge here on, and get the white diamond. And you do it again. You don't want to spend a long time on it. This nice sheen. You can actually use this white diamond for a finish. I'm going to go to Carnoble wax, but you can use this as a finish. You can also, now I oiled this. You can actually use it for bare wood. Don't have to put any oil on it if you don't want to. Let's do the edge. And the last step for the outside of the bowl. And I should tell you, I also let this sit for a good week to harden up the final coat of oil, because you really want it hard. Okay, the last step would be your Carnauba wax. Take the old stuff that was on there.
That's what they make your capsules for pills with. So it's very food safe.
This is supposed to be, yeah, it is supposed to be food safe, and it's supposed to be am I right, the hardest known wax to man? Yeah. Yeah, this puts on a nice, beautiful finish. Like I said, I use it on everything. I don't know if there's anything that I don't put it on. And if you see, it puts a nice sheen on it. And these are, I guess these are 8-inch wheels. Put them back in there. You can also, for the inside of the bowls, you have, I think these are 4-inch, 3-inch, and 2-inch buffing balls. I did fail to tell you one more thing. Let's see here. This would be, let's see, which one we want here for that size. This will be good. Is they're marked with like red. That's for your Tripoli, white for white diamond, and yellow for Carnauba wax. Once again, we'll just clean it off. This is your Tripoli. This is made out of linen. Let's see here. There's the bolt. And then you go the inside of it. I know you guys can't see that, but it's that simple. Okay, white for white diamond. This is made out of cotton. Clean her off. Take your white diamond. And the next one will be the yellow for Carnauba wax, and this is made out of linen, or flannel. And by the way, when you do this, you should wear a dust mask. You can see it? Yeah, you should wear a dust mask and, of course, safety goggles. And there's one more thing that I failed to do. I wanted to get some air, but it's okay. It's too late now. Done did it. But what I do is
compressed air?
Yeah, compressed air. No. Okay. No, I did before. I forgot to tell you. But anyway, and I blow it off between each. It's just like your sandpaper and all that. You want to blow it off before you go to the next grit, in other words, you know. So gentlemen, and ladies, that's it. Bart, all yours.
Thank you very much.
That's it then.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you. I should say.
Adjourns our meeting for tonight, for demonstration.